minor announcements before we actually start with the interview portion. If you need to use the restroom, you can use it at any point in time. And you're welcome to just go out the doors over here. And then you'll make a right, and then you either make a right if you're a female, left if you're male. And if you drove here, if you're in the parking lot, there's parking validation available, so you pay a flat rate of $8. And yeah, we're going to be recording this, so when we start, we haven't started yet, even though it kind of seems like we have, you're welcome to speak with each other until we record. Then it would be great if you could keep that to a minimum. And yeah, as you can tell, we're still kind of getting everyone set up here, so feel free to keep hanging out, and then I'll let you know when we start. I know the recording starts in 1 minute, so we should be starting about then.
He love me, he give me all his money. That Gucci Prada come feed my sugar daddy. He love me, he put no one above me. These bitches wanna judge me, but I don't care. Looking back on the boys that I dated, all the popular boys overrated. Give me brains, money bags if he's ancient. I'm a young lady taking donations. CEO might take me on trips. Pack a suit, might have a few shifts. Love a waitress chasing them tips, but I'm an escort counting his chips. Got a lot, bitch. On a yacht, bitch.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women Creating in Real Life Community. First, I'll start by thanking our sponsors. Thank you to Capital Factory for providing us with this beautiful space. Thank you to, let's see, we have a few here. We have Boozy Bakes. If you tried any of those cupcakes, there are some that have alcohol in them, some that do not. There's also Whitney Fields of Kendra Scott, our stylist today, that has also has a couple of raffle prizes. So if you want to go ahead and sign up, there's one raffle over here, another over there with a few copies of Confident Introvert. We have one that was pre-ordered, so there's a sticker on that one, but the other ones are up to be purchased. We also have, we have zero proof with these lovely beverages, your alcoholic and your non-alcoholic wines. And we have, some yummy food in the back, some savory options if you like sausages by Dexon. And without further ado, I would like to allow everyone here to introduce themselves. I'll start by saying hello. My name's Stephanie Thoma, and I'm the founder of Holistic Ambition and the curator of Women Creating in Real Life Community. And one of the reasons why I created this series actually back in 2019 in San Francisco was because I wanted to give people the opportunity to plug into community faster than it took me to plug into it. Sometimes when you're new to a place, and actually, let's get a show of hands. Who is new to Austin? Okay, keep your hand up if you've been here for less than a week, less than a month, less than a year, okay? Less than 5 years? Yeah, less than a decade? More than a decade? Woo, good mix. All right. So, this event, whether you are brand new, whether you've been in Austin for a while and you just desire to maybe meet new people, maybe in the past few years, your energy has switched up a bit and you're like, you know what, it's time to find people that align with this new version of me, you're in the right place. So that's a little bit about me. I am also the author of Confident Introvert that's back there if you're interested in checking that out. And Holistic Ambition is really all about redefining what it means to be ambitious and successful. More well-being, meaning, and fun in your career, business, and relationships. And I do have a series in this same room. This is a part of the series, so I hope that you'll come back and join us. And now I'd like to give our speakers an opportunity to say your name and what your community is.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'll take this one. Hi, everyone. My name is Elle Beecher, and I'm the founder of the Boardwalks, which is a weekly event where curious people walk 5 miles and brainstorm about all topics, from attachment styles to how to make friends as an adult to astrophysics. Absolutely anything. I have hosted 59 walks for the last 59 weeks, and I've scaled to San Francisco, and I'm scaling to 5 more cities in the coming walks. There's going to be lots of walks, but in the coming months. So that's a little bit about me. I would love to have absolutely any of you come join us if you're curious, kind, and open-minded.
I love that intro, by the way. That's just awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Huron. I am a city leader of Austin here with Founders Live. We're a global networking group across 46 different countries, 110 different cities here. And I happen to be the host for Austin. So I work here out of Capital Factory with startups, entrepreneurs, and I help them or assist them in their business development. So if you have any ideas, you have new businesses, you are more than welcome to have a conversation with me, and let's see if I can help in any way.
Hi, everyone. I am Christina Weber. I'm the founder of Deepen. I'm obsessed with love. And Deepen, we curate all types of social and transformational experiences that inspire more meaningful, loving relationships, healthy relationships. I am also the host of the Deepen with Christina podcast, which follows my entrepreneur journey in evolving Deepen, as well as my own personal dating stories and the lessons that I learn along the way. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mindy Hofman, and I am the founder of Women of Austin. Women of Austin, we have monthly networking events to bring women together, and you don't have to be a part of a specific demographic to come. Everyone's welcome, and I started Women of Austin because I got a divorce, and it was time to, and like started a new business, and it was time to start over, and I couldn't figure out where I fit in. And so I decided to just create a community, and people showed up, and it's been wonderful. We also have a podcast, the Women of Austin podcast. I would love it if you checked it out, where we share stories of amazing women in the community. And Stephanie, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here, all of you. I'm so thankful to have been to all of your events in one way, shape, or form. And, you know, you started to touch on this, Mindy, this idea of a personal story impacting your desire to create community. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how your story has impacted the curation of your community, and then we'll go to Elle on that one.
Great, yeah. So as I was starting to mention, I actually had an e-commerce business, and it was just me and a bunch of seasonal employees, and it was really lonely, and I was in a bad marriage, and I decided it was time to make a change. So ditched the man, ditched the business, and started over. And I had some time to think about what I really wanted, and I did a lot of journaling and spent some time figuring out what I needed, and connection and community was what I wanted. So I started looking around, and I found like tech founder meetups, or, you know, come for a run with me. And I was like, well, I don't really want to run, and I'm not very techy. So I had met some wonderful women in the community after, because I decided I was going to share stories of women who had struggled and are doing amazing things now. So after meeting those women, they encouraged me to keep sharing stories and keep bringing women together. And so I listened, and I followed my heart, and created a space for everyone to come and feel welcome and connect and make friendships, lots of real friendships. So it's been wonderful.
I guess I'll go next. So I went from being extremely extroverted in college. Like, I was an orientation leader, and I was like rah, rah, ray every 6 a.m. And then I moved to Austin. I knew absolutely nobody, not a soul. And I really struggled, because I was like, there's gotta be other people in this city like me, but I can't find them. And I went on Meetup, and I went to all the cringy networking events, and I was like, I hate this. Like, where are my people? I just want to walk and talk. And then I was like, all right, let's walk and talk. Okay, I'm just going to go out here by myself. And I started posting the picture on Twitter. And believe it or not, I've never invited a soul to any of my 59 walks, and we get over 50 people every Saturday out purely through word of mouth, about 70% word of mouth and 30% that one tweet a week that I make inviting people. So it really came from like quite a vulnerable place of like, I know there are curious, kind, open-minded people out there who would love to do this because I exist, so they must exist. So this walk is really a space to bring together the people I was really hoping to meet and couldn't find. So that's my journey and how the walks came to be.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I actually learned about your event series in this room. At an event I hosted in August. So yeah. And, you know, so Lisa, I'm curious about your perspective when it comes to being a chapter leader of, you know, how, if someone here is like, wait, like maybe I don't have an idea yet for a community, but I would love to be in a leadership role within something that already exists, that they can help amplify even more in their city in some way, what would you say?
I would say show up. Is the first part, because the jumping out and trying to become a leader is, you know, by the way, I didn't give myself this title. It was given to me. And I never really thought of myself as a leader, someone who would really just take the baton and run with it. But someone else believed in me and stood up and said, I think that you've got this, and I need you to step up and do it. And when the call came, I just jumped and ran with it. However, I do think that it's a personal journey. In learning, there isn't a one answer that's going to just give the tell all. But it is a personal journey along the way, and there is this thing called imposter syndrome as you go through it, because you're learning new things and you're like, what am I doing here? Like I'm on this panel with this wonderful group of women here who we've all started something in our own way, in our own journeys. And I know that it's our first time for a couple of us, and just even speaking on a panel. So even then I was like, I didn't think I was that interesting that people would want to show up for. But, you know, I'm here, and I'm always happy to help in any way I can. And I think that is really the foundation of leadership, is you wanting to be able to step up and help, and you're going to start somewhere to do that.
Yeah, there's such vulnerability in that, where sometimes it's not that you say, I want to be this, I want to do that. It's rising to the occasion, having someone that sees something in you, and then they pass you the baton, and then you get to run with it. So that is so powerful, Lisa. And yeah, you know, Christina, I know you practice a lot of vulnerability in the work that you do in your community. And we had a really great conversation about vulnerability on my podcast, Holistic Ambition. So I'd love for you to talk about vulnerability in leadership and building community.
Vulnerability, and also what's been top of mind lately is authenticity. They both go together so well. Authenticity is the highest vibrational frequency, and when you're truly yourself in every moment, it creates a gravitational pull towards you. So in my organization, We Deepen, we produce some of our experiences, but a lot of them we're curating and promoting other leaders and teachers who have supported my own intimacy journey along the way. And I noticed when I stand up and I share about going through a breakup or a kinky experience, people's eyes widen and we go deeper into conversation. The bond is much more interesting than, say, how's the weather, or even just talking about work. I mean, I get to talk about love all day, and that is, I mean, our relationships are what keeps us alive. I don't think many of us would get out of bed if we didn't have somebody worthwhile of connecting with out in the world. So from my experience of hosting a podcast, being an entrepreneur, that is a very vulnerable experience. And I also know that, you know, when you desire big things in your life, it requires that you step outside of your comfort zone. So I kind of operate my life where there's always 1 foot outside of my comfort zone. And that is what's going to bring me the most fulfilling love life, the most fulfilling work life, friendships and such. And I say bring it to work, bring it into your environments, because people inside, when you ask the questions, you get so much more interesting, juicy stuff than, you know, the surface level of conversations.
Yeah, going below the surface. You just illustrate that so well in every way. And, you know, I also, when it comes to, let's say, starting with that intimacy, that vulnerability, and like, more or less, you could use the word scale, you know, so Mindy, I know that your community has rapidly grown in the last year. Like, I remember visiting Austin a year ago and joining, you know, your meetup, and you have the same enthusiasm, much larger group. So can you tell us about the growing pains of growing in-person community and how you've navigated that, maybe things that you didn't really expect?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing how fast it's grown, and I think that I know that a lot of it is because of the people who show up. They come and they have a good time, and then they tell their friends. There are a bunch of Women of Austin members and people in the audience here, and I got my girls Mickey and Winnie in the back who are now working with me, really helping me so much. So I finally got some great support. Felicia from Amplified Credit Union is here, and they've just been a wonderful partner. But I think the most important thing is showing up every day. And even if it's a day where I don't really feel like it, still do something. Maybe it's just an Instagram post, maybe it's something on the back end, just every day a little something. So no days off, no. But like rest, but it's my baby, so I do every day. I just have to do something, but if I don't, I don't know, I feel like everyone's my family, and I want to take care of them and make sure that I'm giving them as much as I possibly can to make it the best experience for everyone, and that just means the world to me, and I think that shows, and maybe that's why people keep coming back, I hope.
Yeah, and when it comes to building out in-person community, there's also this emerging online community space. I don't know. I mean, we advocate for in-person here. However, I'm curious to hear, to start with Christina, how you navigate building online community in tandem with in-person as a gateway to in-person, because when I first connected with your events, they were exclusive to Los Angeles, and now they are all over the world. And then maybe, Lisa, from your standpoint of having this, Meetup community that you work with, but we'll start with Christina.
So I use online in a way to get people offline. It's where we communicate offerings and in-person experiences. And, I'll say from a way to, how we got to having experiences outside of Los Angeles and is through partnerships. We work with the Tantra Institute, who puts on Tantra speed dates, and so we represent all of the Tantra speed dates, which kind of was the catalyst to span us into all different types of markets. We create some of our own unique experiences ourselves, immersive experiences like the Dating Dojo, which is a connection experiment for people who are currently single. The Playful Portal, which is more of a play experience. It doesn't matter if you're single, you can be in a relationship. And that is an improv meets emotional intelligence. And so we create and we do Relate Fest and Feminine Weapon Day. And so those experiences we create, and then partnering with other brands and supporting them through invitations through to our network, and being able to amplify the response rate by offering an affiliate, a special bonus when you register through We Deepen to come to these events. And we get to go out to these experience designers and be like, we have a bunch of people. They want to be together in person. Bonds build best over time. So we want them to see each other again and again and again. And it's community that's built, that's not confined to one leader or one modality or one teacher. And they're journeying through all of the experiences. So yeah, we have WhatsApp groups and a circle community and our email list and SMS. And we're on social media, but I don't even use social media as much for the brand because we're small and growing again post-pandemic. But yeah, the online communities are a gateway for in-person because we want to be together.
All right. And now, hello. Oh. So, I also believe Mindy could speak to that, but I kind of want to switch gears a little bit. Christina, you touched on partnerships and the power of partnerships to grow. So let's actually start with Mindy and then hop back over to Christina to dive into the power of partnerships. If you could tell us about maybe the story of how you met a company or a person within a company that became a great partner and how that's impacted your growth.
Partnerships, yes, this excites me. Okay, one of my favorite partners, Felicia, is right there. Calling you out, girl. So when I had my first event, I was nobody, nothing. Like, I was just like, okay, it's called Women of Austin, and we're going to be networking, and there will be wine and cupcakes and women. And people showed up. It was amazing. And I was able to get sponsors for that. So I had the dream, and I put together a sponsorship package, and I just started asking. I'd walk into the businesses next door to the wine bar that it was at, and one of them wanted to do it. It was Galentine's Day. I went into a jewelry store, and it totally aligned, and it worked out, and they were a sponsor. And then I had a friend of mine, her business, they sponsored. So I just always asked, and I didn't limit it. So, 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 I I never was like, oh, I can't get that person or that person. I just showed up and was like, okay, here's who I am. Here's my dream. At that point, that's what it was. What do you think? You're like, come on, this will be fun. And it was, and it worked. But I wasn't afraid to get no, to hear no. Sometimes it's a little bit harder now, to be honest with everybody, because I do know what it is, and I do know how powerful and special it is. And so when I get no's, I'm like, oh, like, okay, why? No. But you don't understand. You don't understand. But you just keep going. Just keep going. Another thing that helps me is setting goals. Okay, I'm going to reach out to 10 businesses today. And the most important thing when you're reaching out is forming real connections with the people, knowing the business, knowing how you can help them. Find businesses that you can serve, that your community would love to learn about. There are so many businesses in Austin, and there's such benefit for everybody. It really is a partnership. And if you go in looking at it like a partnership, they will know, and they will respond. So it's a lot of hard work, but it's totally worth it.
I love how you talk about the grit, because there's definitely so much grit in partnerships. For me to speak on this, I have to share a little bit more about We Deepen. The initial concept that we've been prototyping is, who's familiar with ClassPass? Okay, so ClassPass 2013, they launched, and they brought all the boutique fitness studios into one platform. And that was the genesis behind We Deepen. Initially, I was hosting a dating experience in New York City from 2014 to 2016. And I realized this one dating experience isn't going to solve all the challenges that come up in dating and relating. I need to bring them all together, and we need to include relationship, education, experiences that get people into states and play and joy and fun, and have them journey through these all together. And so that was the initial concept. So our whole business is actually created around partnerships. And it requires that I have to essentially go out and create a vision for them to believe in and enroll them into this grand idea of shining a spotlight on what I've deemed as the field of human connection, or the relationship industry, because a lot of people don't even know that that exists. So it does require a lot of passion and a lot of resilience, especially during the time of the pandemic, when your initial business model was in-person experiences, because that's where people can feel another person's energy. Or I don't know how we're going to do a tantra massage retreat where couples can learn massage on Zoom. It just doesn't work. And I think the thing about partnerships is that you're creating a team. You're essentially giving them access to what they want. And while during the pandemic, our business has expanded to include private matchmaking and relationship coaching, because our overarching bigger vision doesn't work financially until we scale. It's the facilitators want to fill their events, and so they're the ones that keep reaching out. So I painted this vision, and now that's the one thing that I have the greatest demand on. Like, now the partners are actually coming, and I'm like, oh, I gotta have time for this person and this person and this person and this business. And so you essentially create the demand in the market for it, and then the partners will show up at your door, especially the more that you do it and you do it well. They want to come and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, but you're pretty hard to follow, Christina. No offense. However, in business and partnerships, I would definitely say that there is a piece that, on our side, it's more of a trust and accountability. For those people that you're working with to be able to trust you, to know that what you say is you're standing there to help in any way, shape, or form that's possible, in all of their different needs. And so once you're running, once you're helping someone to scale their business, that is definitely a key component. But I'm quite sure that you have something similar with accountability, right?
Yeah. So I have a very different relationship with sponsorships, actually, because I've rejected every sponsor who has tried to sponsor my walks, of which there have been dozens, because for my mission and vision, I want to bring my walk to as many cities as possible, and I'm building a brand that will live on for decades, and I take that so seriously. So for me, choosing a sponsor, like you were talking about, Christina, that partner, is like picking who to marry for me. I take it so seriously, because if my brand, if the Boardwalks are going to be around for decades, who I choose to marry matters. So the way that I see sponsorships is like, if I were to die tomorrow, would I trust this sponsor and this partner to see my vision through? So I would encourage anybody who wants to build in decades to really think deeply about anybody who comes to you and says, let me sponsor, let me partner. You got to feel it so deeply in your heart, in your soul, and in their proven track record, because the most valuable thing that you can bring to a sponsor is community. It's the hardest thing to build. And I'll fight anybody who says anything is harder to build. You're building a trust network when you build community, and trust is priceless. And so when a sponsor comes to you, they're buying the trust that you've earned. And so I take that just so extremely seriously. And for me to put the people in my community on the line, I've got to feel so strongly about every single person I partner with, which is why I've never partnered with anybody yet. It'll happen one day, but I've got my sights set on a very specific set of partners, and I will not settle for anything less. So maybe a different take on sponsorships, but figured I'd add in.
Yeah, woo. Well, we have quite the variety of perspectives. Thank you all for sharing that. And, that makes me think of, so you are effectively scaling, you're now from being exclusively in Austin for, is it 59 going on 60 weeks? Currently at the time of recording. And now you're in San Francisco, and I've noticed at your walks how you have people you've designated that will get up and lead certain things in the group, and you certainly have appointed someone in San Francisco because you're not there. So how do you go about that?
Oh my gosh. So you can see, and I would love for you all to come. We have some people who've been on the walks. Hey guys, who have been here to my walks before, but I would love for you to come experience them. I very much see the Boardwalks as its own little village. So these are people who you see on a weekly basis. You see the same faces. The most attended people have come 45 times of those 59. These are tried and true people who you're going to see. And that's where that trust piece comes in. And you had said earlier, bonds are built over time. I so resonated with that, because that's what I'm building, is a space where you have it at the same time every week, and you know who's going to show up, and you can get to know someone slowly and build that trust, build that village that we're so sorely missing in cities these days. So a lot of the spirit of the walks is solving the social isolation that we ourselves have created. So when I think about scaling, I take it so seriously, because I'm building little societies, little villages for curious people. And the host of the walk, the mayor of the village, if you will, it has to be a very specific kind of person. So over the last year, I have had hundreds of people apply to host in a bunch of different cities, including internationally, in 12 different countries. And I interview them, just like interviewing for a job. And these interview conversations have gone anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. And I told myself, when I scaled outside of myself, I had to trust that person with my life. I had to really trust that they would follow the format I invented with true fidelity. And they had to care as much as I did. And then when I met Adele Block, who is my host in San Francisco, that's the first person I really felt was it. She would put herself on the line for it and for the mission. So I trusted her to be my first chapter outside of me, and she has done 5 walks now in San Francisco. and they have gone on without a hitch. And because of the brand that I built via that one tweet I told you about over the last year, on her first walk, she had 20 people. I started with 9, so quite a big difference there. And she's already far surpassed my numbers, and it took me maybe 20, 30 walks to get to the numbers she's hitting now. So when I think about scale, I think about, and this is for anyone who's building like a decades-long brand that like you really want to dedicate your whole life to, I think about like, how do you achieve in real life parity between every chapter you're building, so that way if you came to my walk in Austin, you came to Adele's walk in San Francisco, you'd have a near identical experience, similar to going to Disney World versus Disneyland. You're going to experience Magic Kingdom the same. You're going to experience a Disney Princess the same. That's how I'm taking it. So with that intentionality, you go way slower than you expect to, but it's in that slowness that you understand what parts of your own method break and what you have to fix and patch in order to make sure that you can go from 2 cities to 50 seamlessly. So that's the stage that I'm in right now. That's very much what's on my mind. And we're about to scale to way more cities soon because of the slowness that I had mentioned earlier.
Go slow, go far. So, I'm curious, who here, raise your hand if you identify as being extroverted. Raise your hand if you identify as being introverted. Somewhere in the middle. So I kind of want to throw the ball back to Elle and then hear a tidbit from everyone else around how you help people feel welcome. And I know we specifically spoke about helping introverts feel welcome on your walk, so we can start there and then we'll kind of go down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm very much an ambivert. So I fall in the middle of introvert and extrovert. So I love building for the introvert experience because as somebody who somewhat identifies with introversion, the least favorite part of any event for me is that awkward moment where you first walk into the event or the door and you have to crack in to a circle of people who obviously know each other and you're like, hey, my name's Elle, good to meet you. And then you like don't know what to say, you don't know how to contribute. It's just so painful. And I think that like there was a level of pain in that experience for me that prevented me from even showing up at events for a long time because I just hated that moment so much. So what I think about doing is like eliminating that entirely in my events. Like, how can you just skip that? How can you help somebody not have that moment? That's what I think about deeply on the walk. So how I solve that is I go up to every single person. I try my best. There's like over 50 people, but I'll go up and I'll bounce around like a little fairy. And actually, you called me a fairy before. Yeah. So I'll like flow around and be like, oh, it's so good to meet you. What's your name and how'd you find out about us? And I try to make like a moment so that I eliminate that moment of awkwardness for anybody when they first come in. So at the very least, they have one good connection. And then the next thing I do is I know my community very well. So I'll try to identify someone they'd get along with and then make an introduction so I can flow away. So I'll be like, oh, you'd really like talking to Lucas. He's really into F1 right now. And he talked about self-sabotage last week. So you'd love talking to him. I'll introduce them and then I'll float away to the next person. So that's very much how I think about it. I build a spirit of welcomeness, welcoming energy and connection into the very beginning part of every one of my events.
I love that about you, Elle, because you really do embody that, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
As you just mentioned. For myself, I hate to say it, I was born and raised here in Texas. And so I think that we naturally have this hospitality that is not usually grown across the nation. As I just came in from New York. Okay. And I can say it's not like that over there. It's more like, get out of my way. And so I think that it was quite easy to meet people where they were, where they are in their space. And so as Elle mentioned, when someone walks in the door, you can usually tell that they're a little nervous walking in, and it does help to give that introduction. But to meet people where they are and understand that and be open and authentic with yourself, helps them feel a little more comfortable. Just walking in the room even. A nice warm smile and just reminding someone that it's okay. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be who you are. And we're open to that.
So the partners, we talked about that we deepen, we curate. We also we vet them, and after an experience, we'll send out a survey, and our participants will share what they thought about them. So I think number one is creating higher standards for the experiences. And personally, when I'm hosting an event, or even when we're looking at representing an experiential brand, it's around the facilitation. So the events that we curate are sort of they're workouts for your soul. They're human connection workouts. And for the most part in those experiences, they're immersive. So whatever you're stepping into, there is an experience that begins when you walk through the door to when you leave. There may be times where if I'm working with someone privately or doing, that's in coaching or private matchmaking, that I will make introductions for people to attend an experience together, and they'll know when they arrive who they will meet. There's also that question around authenticity or vulnerability, and I've noticed as well when I bring people into the space, it's like sharing where I'm at and greeting them from that place. If I'm, having an experience outside of there that was, maybe would take my mind away from the present moment, sharing that and then coming back into that space with them and inviting them to do so as well. I think it's all about the energetics of the space, not to get woo-woo, but there is a little bit of energetics that go into it, and building that trust that both of you spoke about as well, and kind of also having, the experience is always you're opting in for participation. If you've been to an ecstatic dance, you can go and you can dance in the space, or some people will tell me that I don't know how to dance. I'm like, well, you can come into the ecstatic dance and you can meditate and just watch. You don't have to, your level of participation is based upon your own desires and where you're at. And we would prefer that you come into the space and then not come in at all. And also too, there's I would say sometimes even a pre-gauging. So I'll give you an example of, we recently hosted a boundless.
No examples.
No examples? Okay, no examples. I'm going to pass the mic. Thank you.
So I think that at our events, one thing that I've noticed, like I said earlier, we've become like family. And so I will see somebody new come in and look uncomfortable, and I'll be talking to someone, and before I can get a chance to even excuse myself to get over to the person, I'll see that someone who's been coming to the events for a while will already be talking to the new woman. So it's just everyone just takes responsibility for the group and pride in it, and we want everyone there. We want them to feel good, and we want them to feel welcome. So I'm just really blessed to have such beautiful people who come and care.
Thank you.
That's you, girl.
Oh, hey. I do love attending your events. Now we're going to switch gears. It's going to be rapid fire. One sentence. I know. So I have two of these questions as we begin to wrap up this evening and transition into Q&A. Just show of hands, anyone have a question that they're thinking of already? All right. We could also just open it up to mixing and mingling after this. Go ahead and at any point in time, raise your hand if you do come up with a question, and then we'll make sure to have that. Okay, thank you. So the first question that we will go over is, what is one in-person event that you have coming up? If you want to let everyone know let's say what the name of the event is, what it is, and how they can RSVP. Okay, so rapid fire.
It's the walk. Every Saturday at 8 a.m. This week's number 60, theboardwalks.com, baby. That's it.
Okay, so I have actually two. I'm gonna cheat. So I do a monthly, pitch event for founders. However, something interesting that I'm working on now is the Texas Venture Alliance. So we're about to do the Texas Crawl. Texas Venture Crawl, for any of you who have not heard of that. It is the founder meets the VC. And last year we had 1,200 people across 5 venues. This year we have 6 venues, and we're expecting somewhere around 2,000 people. So if you haven't signed up, please jump in to my LinkedIn. There's a space there, or you can go to texasventurealliance.org and pick up. Because join us, I promise it'll be awesome.
I'm going to get a little racy. If you're interested in conscious kink, erotic wellness, or BDSM, we're hosting a 4-day immersion with Kimmy Inch. It's called Something More. It's October 19th through the 22nd here in Austin, Texas, and you can find more about that at wedeepen.com.
And on October 21st, we are doing a wellness event. It's right after ACL and right before the holiday madness starts. So we're going to focus on just remembering to take care of yourself and just kind of refreshing before all the madness. And Women of Austin Instagram, you can find it, or womenofAustin.com.
Amazing. And I might as well invite you to my next event. Holistic Ambition is hosted here. The next one is Networking for Introverted Entrepreneurs, based on the workshop Networking for Introverts that I toured around all of 2019. That was the catalyst for the book Confident Introvert, based on hosting 1,000 networking events in San Francisco. So yeah, go ahead and join us October 5th, 5 to 7 p.m. In Austin, Capital Factory, 16th floor. And now we're going to wrap up with our last question before we get to 1 or 2 questions from our audience here. And that is, what is one nugget of wisdom that you would share with a woman that comes to you and says, hey, I'd like to create IRL community?
That one's really easy. Do an extension of something that you love to do. Any other way of building community will burn you out. It has to be an extension of something you love doing.
I love that. And I'll add on to this as well, would be to don't give up. Don't give up, because there's going to be times when you're going to feel like this is really what I'm doing this. And things happen that you may not expect, but just don't give up. Just keep doing it. Just keep going.
So what she said and she said, and I will add, to create an experience and invite everybody to your experience.
And I would say all of that, and to be authentic. Don't try to be someone you're not, because people will see through that. They'll show up once and they won't come back.
My little nugget will be to focus on one-on-one connections, connecting more deeply with people on a one-on-one level, and then invite them into a community space. And, with that, we do have time for a couple of questions. I saw a hand over here, so I'll go ahead and give you the mic.
Hi, thanks. This question is for anyone or everyone. What has been the most challenging piece about building your community?
I'll say the tech. It's, when you have the vision out there in the world, I have been piecing together pre-existing technology that I needed to prototype the vision. But what ultimately I want to create in the world doesn't exist and does need to be a custom build. But it's learning all of the tech in the interim and using it and essentially playing all roles of the entire business and making sure I know them, so when anybody else comes in, that I can train and teach them how to use those pieces of technology, so then I can move on and work on the next thing.
I've got a good one for this. Okay, so my walks may sound quite simple, right? Walk 5 miles and brainstorm. But the secret sauce to them is actually in the community management. So what nobody sees is that I have a hard feedback conversation on every single one of my walks, because they have very strong ground rules. You know, I get up there and I give a 3-minute speech of ground rules like Willy Wonka in the middle of this circle for like 3 to 4 minutes, and I'm twirling around and I enforce those rules. And it's really hard to look somebody in the eye and enforce a community ground rule. And so I would say the hardest thing is really giving, because this is an open event, right? Like, it's open to all. It's hard to get to because it's at 8 a.m. by design, but it is open to all. And I've had, like I said, one on every walk, so it's over 59, but even more than that, really hard conversations where you're telling someone something they may have never been told before in their entire lives about how they're coming across. And that is hard. So that's what I would say. If you are interested in building a community, be really prepared to have those conversations with heart. Because if you won't have the conversation as the host and as the leader, the energy falls apart. That's the hardest thing that I've had to learn and do on a weekly basis.
I can go quickly. One of the hardest things for me is being able to accommodate everybody. So we have monthly events and then weekly events for our members. And some people live up north, some people live south, like everywhere. And then some people have 9 to 5, some don't. So we do weekday, midday. Like, I just want to make it easy for everybody, and I can't. So logistically, it's challenging to try to find locations that will host us and make sure that we're moving around so that it's fair for everybody. So we've been a little too far south lately all the time. So ladies, if you're in here, we're going to go north again. But just keeping it balanced. That's tricky.
I agree with all of what you have said. As well, I think the hardest thing, along with what you guys have mentioned, is splitting of me. Because there's only one of me. And I would like to be in 20 different places. And they haven't figured out how to clone me yet. But I think that's the hardest part, is because I would like to be present for all of them. But I have to figure out a way to split my time amongst all of them. And that seems to be the hardest part at the moment.
Let's see, we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Raise your hand if you have them. Okay, we'll go 1 and 2. I'm going to give you the mic.
Hi, I think I have a 2-part question. So you've touched a little bit on the importance of authenticity and vulnerability. And the first part of my question is, if you have ever struggled with vulnerability within your own self, first of all, how did you overcome that and find success bringing that into your endeavors? And then the second part of my question is, for me personally, or perhaps anyone else who struggles with having the right amount of vulnerability, speaking as a person who comes across either as very like locked, like severe, I don't know, like someone who has struggles to find a balance with vulnerability, basically. Sometimes I feel like it's either a situation where it's like a word vomit, or it's like I'm just stone-faced, whatever. So what would be your advice for someone who, how to bring that vulnerability in an approachable way? Thank you.
Okay, so I am an open book. So usually if you ask me about some of these things, I just allow me to be me, to be authentic, to let it out. And I know that I have plenty of flaws, because I'm not one of those people that say I'm perfect. I'm far from perfect, I promise. But in order for you to overcome them yourself, is where it's allowing yourself some grace to say it's okay for you to not be perfect. It's okay for you to not always have it all together, and having a support system around you where when you are falling apart, that you can say, hey, I need a minute and I need to vent and I need to let it out. And to have people support around you that you can do that with is, I think, important. However, I will give you one other, because some people do not have that support system around them. I've found that journaling works. And when you are honest with yourself, you're usually allowed to, when you're honest with yourself, you can give yourself that grace to say, I recognize this and it's okay.
I'll add that vulnerability hangovers are real. Like, it's true that you can wake up a morning after feeling as though you shared too much, and feel that way, and that's normal, and I feel that way often. And how I've continue to move through it is I see it as a practice. And there's times, I've done things out in the world and I've been bullied online, or have maybe received criticism from a group of people, and at the same time being celebrated in another way. So any time that you want to do anything that is unique or different, it does bring judgment, and unfortunately that comes with it. And so it's navigating your own nervous system and knowing that, sometimes I'm going to feel like shit, but in order to be my own authentic self and really connect with someone and remove the veil, I'm just going to do it anyway.
Thank you. Now we have one more question. We'll switch gears. Oh, do you want to say one quick thing before we switch?
Yes, because I think this could be helpful. So this is more on authenticity. So I consider myself a recovering people pleaser. I used to have a really hard time saying no and really sticking up for what I wanted to do in all moments. And I think if I could give you one piece of advice, it's to host. Host events and put yourself in a situation to say no to people. And I promise you, because I do it every week, I've gotten very good at it, but that didn't start happening until maybe 20 walks in. So you put in the reps and you build self-trust. And so that would be my recommendation. And if you're anxious about it, it's even better, because the best hosts are anxious hosts, because I'm an anxious host and I think I'm pretty good.
Awesome. Mindy, did you have something, or do you want to be first in line for the next one?
Real quick, and if you're worried about being vulnerable to somebody, but you feel like it's you want to share, if part of what you're worrying about is what they're going to think, then forget that. Because if you're sharing something with them vulnerable and they judge you, then you don't want them in your life anyways. You want people who are going to be welcoming and loving. So by exposing themselves, you did yourself a favor by finding out who they are now, and move on to somebody who actually has respect for you.
This might be the wrong way to frame this question, so feel free to disagree with the premise. But I've noticed that a lot of the times, the strongest communities, the tightest knit communities with a very strong culture, seem to have this element of some exclusivity. Their membership isn't usually entirely permeable to outsiders, and sometimes this can get kind of pathological. But I guess the question is, do you all ever think about that? How do you handle this tension between being inclusive and being exclusive in order to build a tight-knit community?
Ooh, okay, I'll start. The reason that I started my community was because I felt excluded from other communities that I was trying to join. And so I love that you brought that up. And I will see it now that we've been going for a year and a half. I'll see that we're getting a little cliquey at events. And I've had to, but I'm aware, because I know I don't want anyone to feel that way. So I'll tell people, and I'll tell them this, let's not be cliquey. And we don't, but you have to be aware of that. Definitely be aware. And then as far as being inclusive, anybody can come. Any Austin women or identifying as a woman can join us. So that makes that part easier for me.
This is like, oh my gosh, I could really talk about this for like 5 hours straight. So I'm going to try to control myself. But so, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall off this chair. I'm so excited to answer this question. Okay. So I think I mentioned before, the walks are open to everybody. 8 in the morning every Saturday. There are specific rules. So this is where I answer your question. My community is bound on those rules. My community is values centric. It is not based on interest, which there are billions of communities based on interest, very lovely ones. But like I'm bonding people together based on how they behave and how they show up. So if you're a curious person, you're kind, you're open-minded, you're a lover of meaningful conversations, those are all behaviors, right? So when you get people who are bound by the same values in the same space, and you actively enforce those behaviors, and that sounds harsh, but what I mean by that is like gentle enforcement. If I'll give an example, can I give an example? Okay, so let's say this has happened in the past. When you're walking for 5 miles, about 2.5 hours, you can just monologue, right? Like you can hang on to a conversational partner and maybe it goes quite deep and all of a sudden it's kind of this one-way conversation where you're sharing a lot very vulnerably with this person. That's wonderful, but that's against the intention of the event because my event is for two-way conversational flow. So I would then hear that this happened and have a heart-to-heart with that person and say, hey, thank you for your presence. I so appreciate that you came out today. What brought you to the walk? And then they'll usually tell me exactly what they told the other person. And in that case, I have an opportunity to say, if you want to join us again, which I'd love to have you, I just want to make sure we're rooted in the same intention, which is to have energizing two-way conversations. And so my way of community management is really rooted in seeing the person, not creating any shame in them, recognizing where they are, but then also bringing it back to why we're here. So in my view, you can be open to all and very accessible, which my events are, but bound by a strong intention that you very fiercely enforce to keep the magic and the culture strong.
Great. If we have a sentence each, feel free to add that in.
In my particular business, we have a model of inclusion for all, and we built this model where everyone was included on purpose. So it's a very casual environment so that everyone is welcome. And I don't usually have anyone who has been shot out or pushed to the side, at least not that I'm aware of. But once you get into the higher numbers, or you've got 80, people running around, it is difficult to see that. However, we developed a model where everyone was included and brought into and had a say so.
Because We Deepen is curating experiences, which are essentially their own communities as well, we have something for everyone for the most part. If you want a healthy relationship, we have something for you. And I think the exclusivity route can kind of range from price. The something more experience, a 4-day immersion is around $2,000 to attend that. And some other experiences are maybe $30, $45. So that does create an avenue. We also do work with Summit and Summit at Sea and that brand, which does have an application process to it. So we'll submit out to them, but they trust the people that we send through. And most of the experiences are growth-oriented events and transformational work. So the people that are coming through have that growth mindset that kind of bonds everybody together.
Wonderful. Well, I would like everyone to know first, before we dive into the very last sentence that I'm going to say, that we have a raffle going on. If you didn't already know, go ahead and submit over here. We have Whitney Fields from Kendra Scott. If you can sign up to win jewelry, and I'll announce the winner in the next 5 minutes, so you might want to do this right when we wrap up. There's also another opportunity to win another raffle item over there where the Confident Introvert books are. There are also some of those books for sale. And I just wanted to take a moment for all of us to collectively appreciate these women on this stage, because oftentimes community builders are unsung heroes. They're kind of behind the scenes, visible, yet still taking a backseat to the community and the space that's being built. So that's one of the main reasons for this whole event. And thank you for being here, and thank you, Mindy Hofman. Thank you, Christina Weber, Lisa Huron, Elle Beecher. Thank you for what you do in the community that has a ripple effect out into the world. And if everyone else would like to show appreciation, we're just gonna finish out with a heart-centered applause.
I know, thank you, though.
Music will start soon.
I got one more.
Oh, yeah.
Can we give Christina a round of applause for having us all here, guys? One more for her. One more for her. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I'm thinking of you at the moment. It's like, wow. Stephanie, I apologize. Can we all please give Stephanie a round of applause, please? Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So good.
I need a gangster to love me better than all the others do.
And parking validation, $8 flat. You should be able to get it right out of that door. If you don't see it there, let me know.
Ride or die with me. That's just what gangsters do. I'm fucked up, I'm black and blue. I'm built for all the abuse. I got secrets that nobody knows. I'm good on that pussy shit. I don't want what I can get. I want someone with secrets that nobody knows. I need a gangster to love me better than all the others do. To always forgive me, ride or die with me. That's just what gangsters do. My freakness is on the loose and running all over you. Please take me to places that nobody knows. You got